Good to talk with Kyle Peterson from ESPN. He is TV's Kyle Peterson from ESPN and D1Baseball.com as well. He's talking Arkansas Razorback baseball in the college game. KP, appreciate your time today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So what'd you think of this weekend, man? That was an exciting series you were there for. I know you arrived in town Friday and caught as much as you could of the first Arkansas-Ole Miss game. And then, man, Saturday and Sunday, the tension was just incredibly high. And I have so much faith in this Arkansas bullpen to get out of some tight situations after what I saw, especially on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was good just to be there and be in the middle of an environment like that. I don't know. I think it had been 3 years since I've been down there. So that piece alone was just good to be back in that setting. And then obviously the place is packed on Saturday and Diggs hit the walk-off and everybody goes crazy. The only bad thing about it was trying to get out of the parking lot afterwards. And then Sunday's more the same. So I would agree with you. I like Arkansas's team. Obviously they really defend. They turned 2 or 3 double plays over the course of the weekend that were big league. And I think both those kids end up playing in the major leagues, but they're so good defensively. And then I think their arms all kind of complement themselves. I mean, over the course of the weekend, their 3 starters are all drastically different. I kind of like that. I think it's tough for opponents from a lineup standpoint to do similar things. And there's 3 or 4 pieces in the bullpen that are pretty good. So it's a pretty complete team right now.
Yeah, you've hit on what the theme is of this team this year, and so many folks around the area here continue to say, well, they need to score more, they need to not rely on the home run, and this and that. What this team is really difficult to score on, and you have to earn your runs because they're not going to give you a lot of extra opportunities with walks, with errors certainly in the field, and that's one way you can win a lot of baseball games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty good combination. There's enough offense there. I mean, the overall numbers may not be what everybody thinks, but when you look at the pieces and parts that are there, I think that you would take that offense against most. And so offensively, it may not be, I don't know, as inflated as a fan base would like to see, but I think you're pretty comfortable filling out a lineup card. Yeah. And top to bottom, they've got guys, I mean, your A-hole guys hitting 11 home runs. That's a pretty good spot to be in. So obviously last year was the year that they kind of lit the world on fire and then, baseball just kind of gets you at the end and NC State was playing great. It wouldn't shock me if this is a team that is one of the last few standing at the end of the year. I think they have the pieces that you would want to see for that to be a real, realistic expectation.
Brady Tygert's one reason why, I think. You got to see him in back-to-back days. And I know the coach has said he didn't maybe have his best stuff on Saturday. Looked like he had that best stuff again on Sunday. He's going to start for them sometime in the next 2 years. But with that kind of a true freshman getting Elko 3 times with the game on the line, man, that's tough to do.
Yeah, he fits the role, that's for sure. I mean, he's comfortable being in there when all the lights are on and at the biggest moments. I mean, he walked the first 2 in the ninth the night before and then figures out a way to get out of that. And obviously, I thought his stuff – I didn't think his stuff was as good Sunday. I thought his stuff Saturday – I didn't throw as many strikes on Saturday, but if he threw strike 1 on Saturday, you were out. It was that straightforward. And Sunday, the stuff wasn't quite as tight, but still, it was that at bat with Elko, you kept kind of – at least in my mind, I'm going, all right, he's going to throw in breaking balls. It's just whether or not Elko's going to run into one. And he didn't. He was a little bit early on a few, and then obviously the last one got in on his hands enough just to flare out to center, and the game's over. So I'm excited to see what he looks like when you push him into a starter role, I would assume, next year. But it's a pretty good fit right now because I know you're comfortable with him running out of the bullpen at any time, and he showed that he can lengthen it out if you need him to.
Mm-hmm. Elsewhere around the SEC West, which of these has been, I guess, more shocking to you of how it's kind of all played out as we're down to the last month of SEC regular season and before we get to Hoover? Is the emergence of Auburn this year sitting right behind Arkansas in the SEC West, or has it been the decline of the Mississippi schools sitting in the cellar?
I think there's probably a little bit more surprise with where Ole Miss and Mississippi State sit right now. And a lot of it is, like, the Ole Miss offense is good. They're good. They're old in a good way. They're not incredibly deep on the mound. And I think you saw it over the course of the weekend. It's not like Arkansas was pounding it, and was putting double-digit runs up every day. But still, the strength of Ole Miss's team is their offense, and it hasn't been enough. They haven't been a great defensive team. Not terrible, but not great. Definitely not Arkansas. And then State, you go on a road this weekend at Missouri, who has played some teams. Missouri played Tennessee really tough. They played LSU really tough. They didn't win. They played them really tough, and then they clipped Mississippi State this weekend. We'll be there this weekend. They've got Florida coming to town. So, yeah, in the West, I think those two are a surprise. I didn't think Florida would be 8-13 or whatever they are right now. Mm-hmm. But the other one that I didn't think would be where they are is A&M. A&M at 12-9 is a pretty loud number. That's, it's a team that has got a bunch of transfer portal guys, arms that weren't necessarily what they were last year, and I think the job that's been done at Auburn and A&M is pretty darn impressive.
Mm-hmm. On the other side of the conference, and it's been a conversation, I think, around the SEC for the last couple of weeks, and it's been, with the bats, go back to the bat stickers with Tennessee, you go to the chest bump, Vitalo, then the throwing of the bat last weekend. How do you think that outside of, I guess, the SEC, for people that really do pay attention to college baseball, how is Tony Vitello and his team being perceived? Is it confident and cool, or is it arrogant and annoying?
I think some of it depends on how old you are. The younger probably look at it a little bit differently than those that are older. It's just it happens more that way. I think it's incredibly good for college baseball. There's a limit, and there's a point that maybe it does start to go a little bit too far. Listen, if you're going to do everything that they have done this year, just as far as celebrations and everything that goes along with it, you got to be able to accept that when somebody gets you, that they're probably going to bat flip on you. And it took kind of a weird bounce and went a bit further to the dugout, and then I think emotions took over. But all in all, listen, there's more people paying attention to college baseball because Tennessee's good, and because of the things that have been out there from a social media standpoint. And that shouldn't always be the end-all, be-all with it, but I think it's a really good thing for our game, and that is a really, really good baseball team.
Agreed. I think it's good for the game too, just because it's not. No one's talking about anybody cheating over there with Tennessee. This is just a matter of just the way they're playing the game, and they're playing the game incredibly well. It's just a good team, and they get a great atmosphere. And Tony's built something there that looks like it's built to last. They're probably going to get a new ballpark. But you said you were back at Baum Stadium for the first time in a few years, for this last series. And there's been talk that maybe the atmosphere isn't quite the same as it has been because the seating arrangements have shuffled around a little bit. I didn't detect that at all on Saturday and even on Sunday, man. I thought on Saturday, even before the Diggs home run, that place was electric. And it must have just been great for you, finally going back into the ballparks. You kind of expect that atmosphere at Baum, don't you?
Yeah, I didn't. I thought it was pretty good. I don't know what the potential issues were before, if there were any, but it's as good of an environment as there is in the college game, and it just reinforced it last weekend. And you throw in, the stuff in right field is incredible. We had a chance to walk through it, and just from a player performance standpoint, and the coach's office looking out over the ballpark and the visual that it is when you're sitting in the press box looking out that way, and then the discussions that at least they started to see what else you do next. It's one of the great settings in our game, and it just continues to get better. And what goes along with that is one of the great fan bases. They've always been that way. It predates Dave, but it was interesting when we were standing in his office, kind of looking back towards home plate. I just said, "What did this look like when you got here?" And he went into this full explanation of, look at the overhang behind home plate, and that's basically as far as the press box went. There was a suite or two on each side, and then there was seats until the end of the dugouts, and then it was berms after that. And a lot of things can happen in 20 years, don't get me wrong, but the growth at that place and the continued growth of that fan base It is. It's one of the greatest settings that we have in the college game.
So where are you this weekend? I know you and Tom Hart get to you're finally go. Have you been traveling all season, or are you still doing games at home recently? Up until recently.
A little of both. Like we had Vandy A&M last week from home on Thursday, and then we went down to Fayetteville on Friday. We go. We've got State and Florida Friday, Saturday, I think. Come home Sunday, so 2. Then I go to Knoxville the next week. I've been in Knoxville, I bet, in 8 years. So I got to Knoxville the following weekend. Georgia comes in there, and I'm probably home for the last weekend of the regular season, and then fired up in Hoover. So yeah, we've been on the road more, which is great. I'm sure there's still some that will be at home. It's not always necessarily a negative. I've seen more of my kids' stuff in the last 2 years than I've ever seen in my life. So I'll take a split. But man, when the big ones are happening, when the environments are the way that they are in Bond, there's nothing like being there.
That's for sure. Well, we'll see you in Hoover, and hopefully see you in Omaha too, man. It's always great talking with you, KP, and thanks for coming on the show today.
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.